And this is not an attack on the other mainstream media. That's why I treat this as a zone of hospitality.
So he's stuck there, but
Yeah, we've lost it. We've lost
but
connection
we're
again.
persevering. We're
Picture comes
persevering,
back.
right?
Am I back?
Yes, you're back. You're
Yes,
back.
yes,
Yes,
you're
sir.
back. You're back.
Am I
You
back,
were,
Marcia?
yes. Yes,
Yes.
continue, please.
Yes, 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 yes. I was thanking you for creating this zone of hospitality in which you can come and speak truth to power. Because a lot of what I've said here tonight, if I had said it in the Pine or elsewhere, it would have been edited out. And the people in this country must be allowed to speak. The people in this country must be allowed to speak as to their condition. And I use the word a lot, as to their condition of suffering. There's a lot of suffering in this country. And I've explained that suffering is not only material. There's a lot of fear. People are living in fear. If a prime minister speaks like that, people must be in fear. People were traumatized last Thursday. Miss Motley may not be aware as to the full extent of the fear that her statement provoked in people, but people became afraid. These are not times that you ask people to dish out $200 to ask people to remove your tint and put on new tint. It's an inconvenience. What time of day you're going to do it? You have children to take to school. What time are you going to do it? How much is it going to cost you? It traumatized people, man. Please don't do it. Please don't do it.
Yes.
Government, please don't do it.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Thorne. And this is,
constitutionally, she cannot do it.
yes.
I'm sorry to shout, but constitutionally, the constitution of this country prohibits Miss Motley from doing what she did last Thursday. I can't find a simpler way to say it. I cannot. People
Yeah.
became afraid. And, you know, it distracted people. Nobody has discussed the violence. Nobody has been killed now for what, 3-4 days? So we're now a tint country. Nobody's getting killed anymore. And that's where the discussion has gone. Presumably the killer is talking about tint as well.
But
When we should have been discussing a grave problem that is confronting this country, that you could sit on your front step and get killed. I heard reference to that man today, probably the commemorating the anniversary of his death. He was there sitting, bullet through his head, dead,
yes,
dead.
Hmm.
You know,
it's
and that
really
is what we
tough.
should have been discussing. That is what we should have been discussing. We should have been discussing, and I have put this to the Prime Minister. I said it in Parliament, and I said it, I believe, outside of Parliament as well. Anti-gang legislation. And Marcia, Ferdy, there are elements in this country that must not be allowed to terrorize this country with immunity and impunity. They must not. Because there will be no peace in this country unless the innocent people in this country take a stand against violence,
Yes.
against the prospect that any of us can be killed while driving through the neighborhoods of this country. It is as serious as that. So let us move from tint and let us ask this government to begin to legislate, to begin to pass laws that are capable of protecting the innocent people in this country. I am accusing this government of being cowardly in relation to the quality of laws that it is passing. I accused them before and I do it again. The Bail Act has done no more than the previous Bail Act. They exported the discretion in relation to bail to the courts. They're telling the courts, oh, y'all do it, y'all do it. The primary law-making body in this country is Parliament. And if Parliament is going to forfeit the power that it has to pass laws, stiff laws, not stiff laws to oppress people, but stiff laws to protect people, to protect the majority of some people in this country, there comes a time when a parliament must take a stand in defense of the innocent. In defense of the innocent, the Constitution speaks of the innocent as well. And if a man is charged and he comes before the court, he's described as innocent too. But the time has come for this parliament, this Barbados Labour Party parliament, this Barbados Labour Party government to get serious about the kinds of laws that it's passing. You can pass a cybercrime bill. You can pass a cybercrime bill, and you can abuse the road traffic legislation to go after innocent people. But when you have a few people running around pointing guns at people, you're soft. You're soft.
Mhm.
So
I
tell
guess-
the psychopaths on social media, they can become as violently aggressive as they wish to be against voices, against opposition voices. But I want them to understand, and I think they understand. They're just defending a party for whatever is their reward. But too much. This government is doing too much that is wrong. This
So
in case I'm still on. This government
yes,
Yes.
you're on now.
had
You're on now.
this government failed with an ID card. This government failed with breathalyzer. This government has now failed with this one, with the Tint legislation. Nobody has died as a result of those failures. But this one, as I said, there's a dangerous portent in this one. When a prime minister assumes that she has powers to occupy her time in road traffic regulations and fine people, I say to the people of Barbados, that is dangerous, it is wrong, it is unconstitutional, it is unlawful, it is undue, it is improper.
Yes.
And,
Thank
and
you,
it's,
Mr.
and
And I
it's
ask
in
about
that.
There's a
not fair.
question here, Dr. Ferdinand, on
Yes,
the
please.
screen
Yes.
that has been here for a while, and I want to. It says, Mr. Thorne, what about this idea of increasing the army's numbers to help to police the country? Does she know that that's not the job of an army? They're not trained in policing. That's a dangerous move. So this person is assuming that this is a dangerous move. What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, the police themselves have been having difficulty attracting recruits. That's no secret. I think the commissioner and the high command of the police force have admitted that they're operating at 2/3 of their strength simply because they're not attracting recruits to the police force. So if they're not attracting recruits, what is it that will make army service more attractive? How are you going to attract 300 people to join your army when you can't get 50 people to stay in the police force? And I say 50 for good reason. And I hope I'm not breaching any national security secrets here. But if you have a police force, a police service that signs up 50 new people, and we're so happy, we feel so proud when the police service attracts new, young people of integrity and honesty, people who want to assume a duty of serving this country. And you sign up 50 new persons, and within less than a year, you lose half of them to emigration and to other jobs. And that is why I have asked the government previously to investigate this problem, this crisis of youth emigration out of Barbados. We are losing our young people to death.
Hmm.
That has affected, you hear me again, Marcia?
Yes, we're hearing you. Yes, sir.
That has affected the police service. So that the question is, if you're not attracting numbers to the police service, where are you going to get them from to serve in the BDF? When I spoke at on the last day of the DLP conference, I made the point, and I ought to have been more clear.
Ooh, it's done.
About
I
this
wouldn't be
move
surprised if there's some
from
aspect of interference either.
Okay, he's back. He's back.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
George.
Mr.
What is that all about? I beg your pardon?
We
Yeah.
missed you for a few seconds, so just repeat what you just said. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes. When I spoke on the last day of our conference, I drew the attention of Barbadians to this proposed move from of the BDF from the garrison to somewhere in St. George, and to wonder whether we were not going to begin to militarize the culture, the political culture. And here it is, less than a month later, we're hearing that we're going to have 300 brand new soldiers in this country to do what? We need to strengthen our police force. We need in this country, we need a stronger police force. We don't need a stronger army. Because the army, even if it were 5 times its size, it's not big enough to go overseas and do meaningful work for anybody. As an army by itself, it's too small.
No,
We need more
defend
police
Barbados
officers.
either.
We need serious reform in our police service. A police officer needs to be able to, or needs to be guaranteed promotion. For example, you can't be in a police service for 15, 20, 25, 30 years and be a constable. That's not right. That's not fair. So that what the government needs to be doing, what the government ought to have been doing if it had been a bright new government 6 years ago, the first order of the government's business was to look at the police service and to reform it. And to say to police officers two things. For good service, your promotion will not be based on favoritism. It will not be based on somebody liking you, or if an uncle or an aunt is in there. It will be based on merit, and it will be based on years of service. Because you cannot be that bad a police officer that you are in there for 30 years without promotion, 20 years without promotion, 10 years without promotion. No, that is not right. And there are police officers in this country who are not sufficiently compensated for the quality of service that they give to this country. When we sneak in our houses afraid at night, who is out there? Who is the barrier out there between us and the robber and the gunman? It's the police. And we can't bring ourselves in 2024 to consider that our police officers are underpaid and seriously underpaid, while $188 million is committed to ministerial and prime ministerial travel all over the place. 3 were just in China. Well, he said that the Chinese paid for them. But I can guarantee you that I'm not going to deal with the Prime Minister any longer. I will guarantee the people of this country that the cabinet, the parliament of this country, all 30 parliamentarians have not been in this country at the same time over a calendar month within the last 6 years. A calendar month has not passed and seen the entire cabinet, including the ministers in the Senate. An entire calendar month has not passed and seen the cabinet member in this country from the 1st to the 31st. What have we gained for it? What have we gained for it? What has our welfare services, how have our welfare services gained from this travel, these 5-star hotels and this private jet? The people of this country need to understand it. The people of this country need to understand the wastage, the squandermania that is not only contributing to opulent lifestyles, but the squandermania that is contributing poverty and suffering. I say that there's enough resources possibly to alleviate much of the suffering in this country. I say that there's possibly enough resources to raise the pay of the police. They have to do it. They have to do it. And not only raise their pay, but give them the dignity of police service.
Well,
10 years,
Ralph,
constable, 20 years, constable. Ferdy, permit me to tell this one because it was in the media.
Go ahead.
My heart bleeds for the police officer who had 39 years in the police service. And he was a constable. Except that he was so impressive in his household that he gave birth to 2 children who so admired and respected their daddy that they became police officers as well. I saw that in the newspaper a
Wow.
few months ago, and he was a constable for you.
Wow.
I'm sorry to identify him publicly, but there's something wrong with that. If he was good enough to stay on for 39 years, surely, and good enough to inspire two of his offspring to join the police service. I don't know him, never met him, as far as I'm aware. But by God, you don't do this to a person. You don't do this to a person and then tell him that he is in police service. It's not police service. That's been unfair treatment. And this is not about him. It is about several scores and dozens of police officers who have been ill-treated while in that service, who have been denied promotion, and the state continues to deny them fair and adequate compensation. And I
But
say there needs to be police in this country.
Ralph, I've been traveling in and out of the Cayman Islands for the past about 19 years, and
Mhm.
as you might be aware, there's a significant number of Barbadians that serve in the police service in the
Yes,
Cayman Islands. Um,
Bermuda,
and
we've
I
lost a lot
and I
of our
can
police
yeah,
officers.
and I can tell you from what I have queried there. I don't know if I'm permitted to say it in terms of the average pay, but it is significant. And not only is the average pay significant, but if you want to call them perks, because in Cayman, the employer must provide health facilities for the employees. So all of
Yes,
your health is taken care of by whoever employs you. So you have free health care, you have a significant salary. Of course, there are other perks that come along with that. And a number of them have gone to the Cayman Islands, Bermuda, and several other areas.
Turks and
To some
Caicos.
degree, yes, Turks and Caicos as well. So some degree, there has to be a matching, so to speak,
Yeah,
of not
yeah.
just the remuneration, but the facilities that are made available. Marcia, when we were on that march on Sunday, I looked at the police officer that was with us, his interaction with the community and so on. But I just thought to myself, here's a man who has a household, a family, and I've known him for many years. And to see him out there, and I wondered, how is he handling it, how is he making it, that kind of thing. There really needs to be
Yeah,
significant change where that is concerned, really.
yeah.
Yes,
That's the only
Police
way you're going
reform, yeah.
to attract people to go into the service.
yes. Uh,
Precisely, precisely.
yes. I see Mr. Newton is still here. Mr. Newton, do you have a question pertaining specifically to the topic that we're dealing with right now?
Yes, I do, Marcia. A number of questions came to my mind, but first I want to thank Mr. Thorne for providing that level of intellectual and moral leadership and
Thank you.
the issues that are confronting us today. I think that is sadly lacking in Barbados today. The intellectual and moral leadership in dealing with critical issues of national concern. Now,
Thank
you
you.
did, yes. Um, Given the various crises confronting us as a nation, especially in terms of governance, do you think, Mr. Thorne, that it is now time for us to include in the Constitution of Barbados the right and power of recall, specifically to focus on government abuse or ministerial abuse, however you choose to put it? Should we, the citizens, have the right and power of recall?
And that is to say, recall a government.
Yes.
Uh, it, I mean, what would be the mechanism? How would you do it? Uh,
Well,
the it would be difficult. I mean, by what means? By what? On what platform? By what mechanism? As I said, how would you do? How would you do
Can
this recall? Would you do it by rebellion? Would you do it by having marches? Would you do it
could
by
you do it?
petition? Would you?
Could you do it
Yes,
by signatures?
precisely how would you do it?
No.
And to be honest, government would have to manage that process, and I don't know how the government would manage a process that would undermine its existence. Um, and you, Pastor Newton, you would have to point me to some precedent for this. Mr. Newton is a pastor, is he? I think I heard him earlier tonight.
No, he's not. He's not. I think he
Oh,
used to be, but he's not anymore. Yeah.
We need to speak to that at some point in
I
time.
think he.
But, you see, we are now a republic.
yes.
Okay.
Without the Republican Constitution, though.
Okay. Well, and there another issue of concern, but we are now a republic, and
Mhm.
we are seeing the abuse of power time and time again. The latest one is the Tint issue. Do we as citizens have any right, or is there a duty of care to us, so as to allow us, in the event that a government or a particular politician oversteps his or her constitutional rights and duties? Don't we have that
Sorry,
right?
it's my fault. I lost you for about a minute and a half. I'm
Oh.
sorry about that.
No. Okay, let me go back. We are now a republic.
Yes.
You have that?
Yes,
Do
I
we
do. Thank you.
as citizens have or should expect a duty of care to the point whereby if a government or individual politicians should overstep its or his or her duties and responsibilities as a government or government minister, do we have a right to recall, or should we have a right to recall that government or that politician? Because we are
Again,
now a
again,
republic.
yeah, except that they have not shared with us the content of that Republican Constitution. I'm not avoiding the question by way of criticizing, but 3 years later, we should have had it. And I heard the Prime Minister recently say that we are not going to have it, we're unlikely to have it this year. This is something that would have to be explored in the Constitution. To be honest with you, what you are proposing may be a little cumbersome, maybe a little difficult, maybe a little, if not cumbersome, on the other hand, it may be a little delicate. Who does the recall? Which body does the recall? Is it a competing party? Is it a group of citizens combined? Is it by petition? How do you do it? I am not sure how you do. What I will tell you, we've had before on the floor of Parliament a vote of no confidence, and that has been the only effective way of it would be difficult. It would be difficult to have a public combination acting to recall a government. What do? Do you force an election? I'm not sure how you would do that, to be honest with you. I don't know everything, but I'm not sure how you would do that.
I agree with you. I agree with you, but now that we are moving or have moved into a Republican status, I think
Mhm.
such issues deserve to be discussed and
Yes, and
agreed
to
upon.
ask you this though. I'm sorry to
Sorry?
interrupt you, but I need to do this. I want to ask you: did you have an opportunity to make a contribution to the commission that is drafting the Republican Constitution? Did you have that opportunity?
No, I did not make an
There you
actual
are.
presentation.
And I'm not blaming you. I'm blaming the commission, because I don't recall that commission was very active in its public consultations. Perhaps they were, perhaps people were not interested, but the outreach, I am not satisfied that the outreach was effective. And I am not satisfied that Barbadians became engaged in constitutional reform towards a republic. Again, that has been one of government's failures. The manner in which the commission has conducted itself, the manner in which the commission has conducted its work. People do not feel invested. Here you are, Mr. Newton, on this date in September 2024, making proposals, and you did not have the opportunity to make those proposals to the commission. That is not your failing. That is the failing of the commission. And here we are, awaiting this new document, this new Republican Constitution. Nobody knows what's going to be in it. And that is why I've said, when they produce it, they then need to go to the public so that the public can see a document and say, yes, I agree with this. No, I can't agree with that. And that's where we are with this country's constitutional reform. We don't even know. I met with them. And I can say to you that when I met with that commission, they did not have the written text of a constitution. They did not. 3 years later. 3 years later. So we don't know, Mr. Newton. You're asking good questions. But you have lost the opportunity to have the commission consult with you.
Well, to be honest, I wanted to, and I could have done that. But hearing and seeing how the commission was operating, I lost interest. I wasn't interested in them anymore because they didn't interest me. Sorry?
You've spoken for me.
He's spoken for me as well. He's spoken for me as well.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Newton. Let me see if Kimar or Dr. Ferdinand, any other questions, or do we have any questions?
No, I'll give way to Kimar. I'll give way to Kimar to ask any questions.
Any chats? Anything else?
The only thing I would want to add with regards to what Nigel has just spoken about, Ralph, is the aspect of the Prime Minister's right to call an election at whim and fancy. I personally believe that those aspects should be fixed in the Constitution and beyond being adjusted and moved by any political party or political leader. If the elections are supposed to be in 5-year periods, then fix it as it is in the United States, 4 years. You know. And I am also giving thought to the aspect of term limits. Which, in terms of the United States, I personally feel term limits are necessary. Because sometimes you can become so comfortable and complacent that the interests of the people no longer bear your attention. You know, so those are the two areas that I would have contributed in the context of the constitutional reform.
Yes. Let me hear from Kimar. Thank you so much, Dr. Ferdinand. Yes, go ahead, Kimar.
Yes.
Just to say quickly, Courtney, that sorry, Kimar, in fairness to Prime Minister Motley, she has said on more than one occasion that she favors a fixed term as well. So I think we're unanimous on that. I think the whole country prefers a fixed term so that an election does not become an ambush.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. I think we're way past that in a modern democracy. This question of the public sitting down and the Prime Minister crouching and waiting for the right moment. No. That's primitive. It's not a matter of ambush. Let the whole country prepare for it, and let a government work within the parameters of limits.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Kimar.
Yes, sure, no problem. Part of the Prime Minister's press conference, this is apart from the conversation, part of the Prime Minister's press conference spoke a bit about the whole project and investigations into the whole project. I was wondering if you could give us a quick update on what's happened with the investigation.
The Prime Minister mentioned that, Kimar.
Yeah, it was a
Yes, she did.
very short mention.
You know the story, Kimar, and I've told the whole country that I tried to get it on the agenda of the Public Accounts Committee to have an investigation, to have that investigation conducted publicly, to have that investigation bring certain people, including the minister, including the CEO of Hope, have them brought to the Senate chamber and have them questioned by the members of the PAC and the government ministers and the government members of that Public Accounts Committee forced a position in which the Public Accounts Committee investigation into Hope was postponed, deferred, suspended, pending another one. In other words, they did not want it to take priority. And no one knows, including the PAC, when we are going to get to it. I spoke to one of the deputy clerks of Parliament last week, and I gave him the assurance that I want to return to the PAC as soon as possible. I'm going to put the government on notice. And I say to the people of this country that I am going to renew my efforts to have the whole investigation done by the Public Accounts Committee. I am going to renew my efforts to have it done. It must be done. And if, as you tell me, Kimar, that the Prime Minister repeated it last week, I am willing to join with her efforts and to ask her members of the Public Accounts Committee, both senators and members of Parliament, members of the lower house, I beg your pardon, to have them change their positions and to give priority to the matter of hope. If they don't do it in the Senate chamber, we are going to do it on the platforms of this country with documentation.
Yes, yes, I think that is that's a good one, Kimar. Well, we're 2 minutes to 10, and just before you go, sir, someone here is asking for once and for all, if you could clarify, and it seems like you're falling away from us.
No, I'm charging my phone. Sorry about that.
I'm teasing you.
The phone was falling out.
Somebody wants to ask you to clear to clear it once and for all. Do we have a constitution? I know we've said it over and over, but people still saying we don't have a constitution. Can you clarify? Because you just said we don't have a Republican constitution.
You broke up there. You broke up there. You're asking if we have a constitution?
That's the person
Yes.
wants to ask that once and for all. Do we have a constitution? And when
We have a constitution, yes. A country must always have some kind of constitution. In one word, yes. Yes, we have a constitution. It is the nature of that constitution. The constitution is a Republican constitution only to the extent that we have a president who is removed from the former colonial power Britain, so that we do have a constitution, a Republican constitution, in the sense that we are sovereign, we are entirely sovereign and separate and apart from Britain. Before we had a president, before we had a homegrown president, so to speak, to use a colloquialism, we had a constitution which was dependent on Britain. Our constitution is now entirely separate from Britain. So only to that extent is it, or can it be called a Republican constitution, because it is sovereign. It relates entirely to this nation. It makes this nation. Oh, I think I was off for a while. Yes, we do have a constitution, but we have a Republican constitution with Westminster content. And that is where we are. But yes, we do have a constitution. And that's the best way I can put it. We have a presidentialist Republican constitution with Westminster content. That is not satisfactory. We need to have a Republican constitution with Republican content. We need to have a Republican constitution with Republican content that is informed by a local political culture. Because there's a sense in which a constitution is really a political and cultural document. The constitution that we have does not entirely reflect our Barbadian culture as it has developed since 1966. Our institutions, a lot of our institutions, like the one I discussed earlier, the police service is still a colonial body with its values and standards, with its systems of promotion, with its systems of remuneration, with its standards of remuneration. Still very colonial. The subordination of police officers on this on professional scales, it's still very colonial. They give service, but that doesn't mean they're servants. They must be better remunerated. But the long answer, the short answer to the question, yes, we do have a Republican constitution, but its content is Westminster. Westminster, I beg your pardon, and that content needs to be reformed and updated
Yes.
to meet a modern political culture.
Yes. Thank you so much. And it's 10:01. Wonderful people. Listen, we had almost 1,700 persons on here tonight and only a little bit of lights. Now, I'm going to ask everybody, can you help us out? Because we recognized last night that there were people who were trying to find the show. They can't find the show. You know, they report in mass and say that this is hate speech. And so what they do in terms of the algorithm, then we're all the way down. I'm going to ask you, everybody, can you just pause and like it? That's a little thumbs up button. If you click that, please, everybody. Can we do that, please? Everybody, let's do that. The education that we have received on this show tonight. We want to thank Mr. Thorne and all of our guests that were on Kimar, and also Mr. Newton, of course, our host, Dr. Ferdinand, all of that information that was shared on here tonight. It is for the betterment of our country, Barbados. And I'm just going to ask you, everybody, just click that thumbs up button, the like button. And, subscribe is great, but that like button is going to help us to go a far way in getting the message out. If we're really, really about the message. Thank you all for, you see, only 403 likes. So we need a bit more so that when the people wake up in the morning, they will see it will come right up to the top and they can watch it. Those in the UK, that's what happened, in the UK, people are going to walk by tomorrow morning. This number doubles because the UK people watch it, people in another time zone. So we're going to ask you to do that. Mr. Thorne, we don't have the general with us. He's not feeling 100%. He's not here tonight. That is Mr. Franklin, but you are here. And so we're going to ask you just to take half a minute and just say the last few words that you want to say to your Barbadian people tonight.
Keep faith, keep strong, never give up, never give up, never give up, and never give up on our young people. Apart from Kimar, those of us on this show have lived reasonably long lives. And we need to make the rest of our lives a dedication to the lives of young people. And the young people are in crisis. We're losing too many of them. Let us devote our efforts towards giving young people in this country a life that is worth living. Let us try to persuade those who have left us for larger countries. Let us try to persuade them to come back and to render service to this country. And let us never, never, never give up. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so very, very much. Everybody, have a fantastic night. It's been a pleasure having you with us, and we will see you again on Wednesday night. Don't forget, Alternate Views is going to be on Thursday night. All right. Everybody want the favorite song, Cross the Floor. They have been saying it. That's what they request. So Dave, oh, I didn't say thank you, Dave. What am I doing? Thank you, Dave. Thank you so much. And Dave is going to play that song. Thank you, Dave.
Dancers, come forward, walk out. This one I got worldwide.
Just days after former government backbencher Ralph Thorne crossed the floor, he's taken the oath of office as leader of the opposition.
Cross the floor, let me do some more like Ralph Thorne. Ralph Thorne. On the other side, cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor, let me do some more like Ralph Thorne. Wait there, Ralph Thorne. Dancing, come back again. Our turn is the latest trend. Everybody know link up a friend. This one designed to be
And more will be left over.
Dancing, come back again. Our turn is the latest.
Are these trips so important?
Link up a friend. This one design for the women and men.
Yes, I'm for real, remember? I am for real.
And I can't decide, so I'm moving with
Don't let me talk out your business. Don't let me talk out your business. All right.
And I can't decide, so I'm moving with the tide. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. So let me do this now. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. Yes, yes. And let me go now. Cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor. Let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Ralph Thorne. On the other side, cross the floor.
There has to be some order here.
Cross the floor, let me do it some more like Ralph.
The Minister of Finance is not party to this present transaction, Your Honor. Ask him to keep quiet, please. And I say to you further, Mr. Speaker, that my conscience, my location here is related to my conscience. I said it last year. It is well with my soul.
Take a wine on the left side, and I can't decide, so I'm moving with the tide, moving with the tide. Take a wine on the right side, take a wine on the left side, and I can't decide, so I'm moving with the tide. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. So let me do this now. Cause I'm ready to mash up the body. Oh gosh, I can mash up the body. Yeah, yeah. And let me go now. Cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor. Let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Ralph Thorne. On the other side, cross the floor, cross the floor, cross the floor. Let me do it some more like Ralph Thorne. Ralph Thorne.
That is my man. So whether he cross or in cross, he will always be there for us.
I came to a point where I had to take the decision that if my philosophical and political views do not accord with those of government in terms of its legislation, in terms of its policy, the relationship becomes untenable.
Oh my goodness. And Dr. Furley, the people saw you moving and dancing behind here. They said they saw you dancing. Cross the floor. Cross the floor.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I love it.
Ralph Thorne. Ralph Thorne. Good night, people. Good night. Good night.
God bless. Thank you for being here, Ralph. God bless.